Your life experience, good or bad, is a gift when you share it with others. At Taxi Chronicles, we allow real riders with real stories to share their gift. So hopefully this episode will intrigue, enhance or inspire you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode and another rider. Today we are honoured to have a lawyer in the house. And the lovely lady's gonna tell us all about what it's like being a lawyer and her route to becoming a lawyer. So for those who are interested in working in the industry, let's listen to what the lady has to say and take it from there. So nice to have you here today, Sally.
Thank you. Great to be here too.
So tell me, what made you want to be a lawyer?
The main driver for me to becoming a lawyer was actually social justice and to try to make a difference, because I think that the law is a very powerful tool and you can use it to great effect if you know how to use that tool well. And at the beginning I thought I wanted to be a criminal defence barrister, to defend people who are probably at the bottom rungs of society and who don't get a fair hearing in our criminal justice system in this country. But I quickly found out that it wasn't going to be easy to do that, because there's not much funding to support you through law school to become a criminal barrister. So I did, in the end, the absolute opposite of that, and I became a commercial solicitor, and I now work in-house doing commercial litigation, so disputes of all kinds, arbitration, international arbitration cases, commercial litigation cases. But luckily enough, I was still able to do what I wanted to do originally, pro bono, which means you don't get paid for it. And so for the whole 20 plus years that I've been a solicitor, I've still done lots of pro bono work, notably death penalty defence work in the US and in the Caribbean. So I still managed to do those cases that I always wanted to do, but not as a criminal defence lawyer in the UK.
You spoke about the desire to help the downtrodden or the misfortune. Where does that come from? A bad experience or someone you know?
It comes really from my parents. I mean, I'm originally from Wales, and my mother was a very, very strong proponent of standing up for the weakest in society. She had a very strong social conscience, and so she really inspired me to want to use the law as a tool, as I say, to give people the rights that they very often they're entitled to, but they're not always able to exercise.
You spoke about the death penalty in the Caribbean. I don't know, my parents being Jamaican or heritage being Jamaican, we don't have the death penalty.
So Jamaica hasn't used the death penalty for quite a while, but when I qualified, when I was a trainee and then I qualified, both Trinidad and Jamaica used the death penalty, and there are many people, or the vast majority of people now have had their sentences commuted to mandatory life sentences. But I worked on two quite well-known cases in Trinidad. I didn't do so much Jamaican work myself, but there were other people in the group of lawyers that I was working with at the time who did do a lot of work in Jamaica. Yeah.
What kind of crimes were these people accused of?
So they're all murder crimes, because there was a mandatory death sentence originally for crimes in a number of Caribbean countries. But the reason that I was involved in those was because their final court of appeal was the Privy Council in London, so they needed representation at the Privy Council.
What's the Privy Council?
The Privy Council was the final court of appeal, criminal court of appeal for a number of Caribbean states.
Okay. So can you explain the legal process of how things would work? Someone's accused, they're going to court.
So they have a trial in the country. If you're talking about the Caribbean, they have a trial in that country. They then have an appeal in that country, and then if they wish to appeal, the final step of appeal would be the Privy Council in London, which was a bit like the House of Lords used to be, which is now the Supreme Court in the UK.
Okay. But now you deal with corporate law.
That's my day job is corporate law. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What would you say you've learnt over the years?
Huge
that you
amounts.
You knew when you started.
Huge amounts of things. So much. Learn to be patient. Learn to be resilient, because there are lots of ups and downs along the way, but to always have your goals clear, and your personal integrity is so important. So if you lose your personal integrity, then you don't stand up for what's right, you don't speak out when you need to speak out, then it can become very difficult. So I think never give up as well. And I've worked on a case of somebody going back to the death penalty defence work that I do in my spare time, if you like. Worked on a Texas case which the person was on death row for 40 years and he came out last year. Should never have been on death row in the first place.
I wonder if that's in social media. That's probably in social media, that case. It looks like that rings a bell. But mind you, with Texas, it could ring many bells.
Yeah. There's many similar cases, but yeah. And that one, it had so many ups and downs to it, and great wins and then devastating losses along the way. But at the end of the day, we got the justice that he deserved. And so that case really made me feel never ever give up when you think it's all too much and you're not going to get what you're aiming to get, which was justice in this case. To just keep going, and eventually, if you're dogged enough, you can get what you're working for.
Yeah. So I take it you're not an advocate for the death penalty under any circumstances?
No, I'm not, no.
It's funny because I was, as a father and a grandfather, there's one thing I'm an advocate for the death penalty for, and that's paedophilia. I think when a grown man takes out his inner frustrations in that sense on a real minor, and you're kind of caught red-handed, I don't see how. I think it's one of those things, it's like an instant dismissal at work.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to go.
It's a horrific crime which will, leave lasting, lifelong damage to the victim. I totally get that. But I think as a society, we have to be better than the worst of the worst crimes. And usually, very often in those cases, you will find people have been abused themselves.
Shouldn't they know better then?
I think that they're so damaged very often that they and probably have not got the treatment that they needed or the help, the support that they needed to overcome that. I totally agree with you that paedophilia is beyond the pale, but I don't think as any society has the right to take somebody's life. And I do believe that none of us are. We're all better than our very one single worst act that we've ever done, and we're all capable, or the vast majority of people are capable of rehabilitating to a certain degree. And if they're not, then they have to be in psychiatric hospital or whatever for the rest of their lives. But I think as a society we have to be better than what we condemn as the worst crimes.
Okay, that's interesting. I've heard that chain of thought before. I won't say I agree with you.
No.
I do think from my experience in the military and coming from children's home, that it's not something I give quarter to, but then I'm not a politician, so I don't make
Nor am
laws.
I. I'm not a politician either.
But that leads on to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
As lawyers, you kind of create a standard, like the Uber case, legal case.
Yes.
That was a standard of precedence.
Yes. Yes.
Do you, because you must see a lot of things and see that some things are really wrong and blah blah blah, do you get to set a standard? How does that precedence be set? Is
So
that the
lawyers
judge?
don't. No, most of it is set by legislation, which is put through Parliament. And in the case of the case against Uber, that was already existing. In fact, European law and standards, which under European employment standards, it was never okay to really treat Uber drivers as if they were not employees. And so it took somebody taking that to applying the existing law. It wasn't new law that was created there. It was ensuring that Uber adhered to existing employment law standards.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What would you say to a young person who wants to go into the legal profession?
I would say absolutely. If you've got the drive and you've got the commitment, it's a lot of study. It's it can be there are a huge number of different areas of specialism that you can go into. You can go into the commercial bar or be a commercial solicitor. You can be a criminal solicitor or a criminal barrister. Within the commercial spheres, there's a whole host of different things you can specialise in. You might not know what you want to specialise in, so keep your options open and try to learn as much as you can about lots of different areas. So, for example, IT, intellectual property, you can do real estate law, you can do competition law, you can do litigation, you can do mergers and acquisitions where one company buys another. There's a whole host of different areas that people could consider specialising in, and if they've already got an interest in any of that, then they for example, sports law, that's one that a number of young people find very interesting. And
which one is the biggest payer?
Tax, probably.
Tax?
Yeah. Well, tax barristers get very well paid. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good to know. So if you're motivated by money,
If you're motivated by be a tax barrister.
tax barrister, just counting those beans.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. If you could do it all again, would you? And if you, or would you do it the same?
I had a very sort of unconventional route to the law. I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer after I'd been working for a while, so I went back and did the conversion course after I'd been working for like 8 years. And I wouldn't change anything, no, because I think I learned a lot before I became a lawyer, but having the law as a tool to make things happen and to change things has been great. So I wouldn't change anything. I'm happy with my experience before I became a lawyer, and now that I am a lawyer, I'm happy with the work that I do.
Okay, that's good. Cost effective. Obviously, things cost a lot of money to study nowadays.
Yeah.
I've spoken to paramedics. I've spoken to behaviour therapists, and they say there's a cost-effective way of getting into their industry, even teaching, where you don't have to do a degree that's going to put you in debt. You can do on-site training, and at the end you get the equivalent of a degree, or I think it's a degree, but you got paid, you got experience.
Yes.
You've got a qualification. Is there something like that?
There is a route that it's not that usual, but there is a route to becoming a paralegal, and then qualifying as a solicitor after that. And some people do go that route and very successfully go that route. But if you to get the solicitor qualification. The vast majority of people have a degree. It doesn't have to be a law degree, but a degree. And then you have to do, if you've got a law degree, you then have to do 1 year of professional study and an exam at the end of it. If you have a non-law degree, you have to do a conversion course for a year, and then you have to do the legal professional qualification. So if you go into the commercial sphere, you can get sponsorship from law firms, certainly in London and possibly elsewhere, I'm not sure, to help you through the professional qualification bit. So one thing to bear in mind is you don't have to have a law degree to become a lawyer, and so people might prefer to do a different degree and think about law later. And I would say law is a tool to be at. It's an extra tool to your box of tricks that you can use to give you lots of options. You as a lawyer, you can work in-house for companies, or you can work in private practice, so it gives you a lot of options.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting interview. You've been a great guest. My last question, which is a generic one, but I kind of think you've answered it, but just in case we have a different aspect that I've overlooked, what's the impact you want to have on the world?
What's the impact I want to have in the world? I like to inspire. Particularly, I've got a lot of godchildren and a daughter, and I like to inspire them to be the best that they can. I get a lot of joy out of the people that I support. I would like to see us moving in this country to be more international in our outlook, to be more open-minded.
So no more Brexit.
No more Brexit. No, I loathe Brexit. I think it's the absolutely biggest mistake we've ever done. So that is not the world that I want to see, and I think the impact I'd like to have is to have people more open-minded, and actually to encourage as many people as possible to be as kind as possible to the people that they come into contact with. So I'm a great believer in kindness and the power of being kind.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Last question.
Oh, no.
No, I just realised, what degree should people do if they're going to do a degree?
I think the most important thing for a degree is to do a degree that you're really into, that you really enjoy, and that that's going to give you. You've got to enjoy a degree. There's no point in doing a degree for the sake of it, because that's what you think will necessarily get you the best job. Do a degree. If you're going to take the time and spend the money on a degree, do a degree that you'll get out of bed in the morning and think, yeah, I'm really enjoying learning this. And after that, you can adapt. You can take more qualifications. You can use it in many different ways. I did Chinese as my degree.
Okay.
Because I was interested in learning Chinese. So I think you can choose your degree in terms of what you think will stimulate you, and then move on from there. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for that.
Cheers.
And we wish you well.
Thank you very much. And
We hope you liked that Taxi Chronicles interview. Don't forget to share and subscribe to get the latest episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economies and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. Listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. British Standard Time.